Oh, yeah. Space where you can kick it out. That's what you're
Lombardo to speak.
All right.
Hello, and thank you for coming today to celebrate the life of my father, Dave Lombardo. If the amount of people who come to your funeral is any indication of the impact you had, well, it looks like you did something right. On behalf of my mom and Laura, we cannot thank you enough for all the calls, texts, volunteering for meals, and other generosities over the past few weeks. It's been a brutal stretch, but your support and the support of others who couldn't be here today has helped immensely as we get through this together. I also want to give a special shout out to my mom. Mom, I don't know how you do it, but the strength you've shown and continue to show is absolutely incredible. Even after getting curveball after curveball thrown at you, you persevered and stayed as positive as possible, and that allowed me to feel like everything is going to be okay. I respect you so much, and thank you for everything you've done. Now, what I want to do today is I want to tell you about my dad and the kind of person he was and the kind of father he was. Besides his carefree attitude and witty sense of humor, the best way I can really describe him is he was so humble, even when he had every reason not to be. Every time I can remember when praise or recognition was given to him, he would deflect and downplay it. Well, today is the day I can give him all the accolades he truly deserves. My dad was all around talented as well as extremely intelligent. In high school, he was voted best all-around male athlete twice, starring as the point guard of the basketball team, goalie of the soccer team, and triple jumper in track. When I went back to a basketball camp at his high school about 15 years ago, there were people at that school who still remembered him as a trumpet in the school band and showed his intelligence by attending one of the best colleges in America, Amherst College. While at Amherst, he played on the soccer and basketball teams, all while studying pre-med. He went on to attend medical school at the University of Virginia, completed his residency training at Harvard, and did his fellowship in MRI at Duke. It's not a bad resume for a guy who would never proclaim himself as one of the smartest or best at anything. In addition, my dad's interests were so well-rounded, as he also learned Italian, is very well-versed in art, jazz, and opera, and was a terrific golfer. But more than any of that, my dad was an amazing father, husband, brother, and friend to all. Not that I need a reminding, but the amount of people who have recently reached out and told me how they personally felt about him reaffirmed to me that he was someone who made others feel important and valued, and he was someone who others enjoyed to be around. Truly listening to others and being interested in what they had to say is something to arrive at. That doesn't mean he was perfect by any means. He would be the first to tell you that his technical and mechanical skills left a lot to be desired. There was one time when we were fishing in the Keys when he went to cast his rod and somehow just threw himself overboard. The captain said he had never seen that. He also probably kept the Halloween haunted house in the guest house going a little too long, as evidenced by him tweaking his knee and causing the little girl to cry when he jumped out of it. But his heart was always in the right place. As far as our relationship, I don't know if it's possible for a father and son to have a better one. Of course, we could break down last night's NBA action or talk about the Jags forever, but it was so much more than that. He taught me lessons on how to be a good husband and father through actions and words. Every summer, when I was ages 10 to 15, my dad and I would do a guys trip to see his parents in Connecticut for a week. We had a routine down where we would always go to an amusement park, go to the Basketball Hall of Fame, play mini golf, attend a minor league baseball game, drive to Massachusetts to see his sister Ann and her family, and drive to see one of his best friends, Scott Ogier, in upstate New York. These trips allowed us to bond and form real memories between us that will stay with me forever. Fast forward to 2017, when I graduated dental school and a new tradition was born. Now for 3 days, every July, my dad and I decided to go out to Las Vegas together and attend the NBA Summer League. This is basically an excuse for us to hang out together and watch 10 straight hours of uninterrupted basketball, which is basically heaven on earth for us. My mom never understood. During one of the games, I remember looking around at the arena and realizing that most people there were either gambling, partying with friends, NBA scouts, or a family of players. However, my dad and I simply love going because we genuinely enjoyed each other's company and watching basketball together. I've learned that these simple kinds of joys in life are very special and not so easy to find. Watching my dad's health decline was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Knowing that the end was coming was emotionally exhausting, but also gave me the great opportunity of relishing and appreciating our time together more. I soaked up the moment every time we played golf or watched a game over the past 9 months. Also special moments, like when we celebrated Jana and I's 1-year wedding anniversary in February, or this past March when we surprised our parents that we were expecting a baby, or in April when the Jags drafted Trevor Lawrence. Those meant more to me, and I'm so happy he was there to experience them. My dad being in the hospital for a few weeks also gave me the chance to have all the conversations about life I wanted to. I thanked him for everything he had done for me, for always being there when I needed him, and for creating real memories with me that will live on forever. I also told him I will carry on the lessons he taught me with my children and try to be as good a father to them as he was to me. These conversations were the most difficult part for me because I knew what having them meant, but I also knew how important they were. I know that many people do not get this chance, and I will be forever grateful to have had them. My dad already beat death once. He should have died in 2007 when he had to have an emergency surgery on his aorta. Doctors said about 95% of people die with how he presented that day. And I promise you that if he had died then, and I was just a senior in high school, this would have been a much different conversation. I think about all the life events he would have missed out on. Graduations, weddings, babies, and the one winning season for the Jaguars. Today is an extremely sad day, but I know he's given me all the tools and lessons to be successful in life and to support my family. With that said, I'm committed to honoring him and keeping our family strong moving forward. Dad, I'll always love you and I'll miss you forever. Thank you again for everything you did to help me and our family, and I promise I'll use everything you taught me about life and about being a good person in order to keep us positive and strong in the future. Thank you again for everyone to be here.
Thank you. Now we're going to get Dave's college and medical school friend up, Dr. Scott Mosher.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank Carol for giving me this honor to speak about my friend from so many years. I've been asked to talk about David's formative years. Years before he became Jacksonville Beach's Dos Equis' most interesting man. I met David in August of 1973. We lived across the hall from each other freshman year. We roomed together for the next 3 years, played on the freshman and varsity basketball teams together, pledged the same fraternity, joined the same fraternity, went to UVA for interview on the same day for medical school, got into medical school the same day, played on the same intramural basketball team, aptly named the Rat Hepaticians. We also played on the same softball team, intramural football team. About the only thing we didn't do together was date the same women. My memories of David are really time-stamped by sporting events. The other day I was trying to remember when we took a summer trip to Virginia Beach together. Couldn't remember the year, and then I remembered it was when the Washington Bullets were playing the Seattle Supersonics, and Jack Sikma was the star. And so I looked it up and I found out it was in May of 1979. And then another event I was trying to remember when we were in a softball tournament at UVA. Couldn't remember the year, and then I remembered we stopped for a few minutes to listen to Bucky Dent hit his memorable home run over the Green Monster, and then I remembered it was October of 1978. So David is the only friend I've ever known who has 3 nicknames. For those of you who don't know, originally in high school he was known as Lumpy. Then he graduated to the now famous Lombardo. And then one of my college roommates, who was an English major, gave him a much more sophisticated name, naming him the Bard. Now, Lombardo was extremely skilled in college, not just as a goalie on the soccer team and a point guard on the basketball team, as Robert mentioned, but he was well known for his late afternoon power naps. Also, his free spirit on the dance floor, creating his own very unique, memorable dance moves. He was also known for his ability to compose term papers the last night before they were due. And I'll never forget, we took constitutional law together with one of our good friends who was the English major, and we studied together, and David got the best grade, and my good friend became an attorney in Texas and the head of the Texas bar, and could never live down the fact that Lombardo did better than him in constitutional law. Now, David always showed excellent judgment. I remember, for example, the streaking epidemic of 1973. For those of you younger, you may not recall that. You can ask some of the older people here. But whereas I chose to streak again across the quad on a winter's night, an all-women's college struck across their quad and had his picture in the Mount Holyoke newspaper. Another piece of evidence of his excellent judgment also occurred freshman year. We had a beer drinking contest at Deep Fraternity, and something I'll never regret, or I will always regret. And Lombardo found an excuse to avoid this by going out on a date with a girl from Mount Holyoke, so he avoided that whole debacle. The only piece of really bad judgment I can remember was when Lombardo was a groomsman at Alicia and my wedding. And before I talk about that, I should digress. This t-shirt actually goes back to the wedding time. David was, I think, in Boston at the time, if I'm not mistaken, stopped at Salvation Army. And for our wedding and for the night before, for the bachelor party, he picked up an after 6 pink tuxedo for me with black velvet lapels. It was size 52. And subsequently, I wore that to the bachelor party, and I worked for some photos during the wedding, which Alicia... and then we passed it down subsequently to all of our UVA friends for subsequent weddings. In any case, getting back to his bad judgments. So after our wedding, Lombardo and 3 of the other groomsmen had a few beers, decided to go to the University of Rochester fraternities. This was 1982. And David decided that he had to relieve himself and did it next to a fraternity man's automobile. He was spotted, he was chased, he was caught, probably the only time anyone could ever catch him, and he was clobbered, and he ended up in the Strong Memorial Emergency Room and having 9 sutures still in his tuxedo. So Lombardo and I shared many traits in our academic career, and Robert already alluded to some of these. We suffered a near disaster in genetics class, almost killing our fruit flies before the experiment was done. Needless to say, as Robert alluded to, neither of us became laboratory physicians or surgeons. We knew that was not our specialty to go into. Lombardo and I always had competitions that were friendly. The first competition I remember was the pecan pie competition. Now, David's mother baked a very delicious pecan pie and brought it to David and I freshman year, first week, and I ate it and told my mom it was the best pecan pie I ever had. Well, my mom had to then make the pecan pie equally as good and brought it the next week. And David told his mom the same thing. So we had pecan at Frost Library. Coming back, each night we played backgammon. We played over 2,000 games our sophomore year. The final tally, as I remember it, was Ogier 1,003, Lombardo 1,001. If he were here, he'd probably tell you the numbers were somewhat different. So, as I nearly finish here, David and I kept up over 40 years. And our last meeting in New York City was particularly memorable for the sort of events we did. We first rented bikes, rode around Central Park. We watched Premier League soccer on TV. We then rented a sailboat and went around Lower Manhattan. We had a very nice dinner at an Italian restaurant with the best red wines. So I will miss my very best, extremely humble, athletic, but very cultured, compassionate, and very witty. He was an excellent physician, and as my friend Bob Verona says, he was an even better husband and father, as good as a physician as he was. I will always think of the great times we had together, and I will cherish those memories forever.
Now, if I could ask Dave's golf buddies to come up, Paris, Jose, and Henry.
All from the back.
I met him exactly 12 years ago on the golf course when I was there with Harris and Dave. And ever since we've been very close and friends. We had common soccer. I'm a soccer fan. I'm a Real Madrid. And it was in Juventus. So every Wednesday, traditionally at 3 o'clock, we'd watch a game at my house. We'd be here at 3 o'clock, if you can imagine. We three played together every Sunday. We had bets on it. We had strokes. We had all these different accounting schemes that we always ended up paying him. Okay, we paid him a lot of money.
Well, we're here on a sad occasion for a guy that was never sad, to celebrate a person that was never sad. And we all feel the same. Everybody here feels the same. Dave was the greatest of great guys, warm and kind to everyone. When you see the slideshow inside, you will all remember his friend Blaine dressing, and that's why we're the way we are, to commemorate that. But I thought about that, and he didn't do that for any egotistical, self-motivated reason. It was purely because he wanted other people to be happy and to bring happiness and humor to other people. That's the guy he was. And what a just great guy, never complained, never anything in life that hit him, he never complained, he always upbeat, just the greatest of great guys. So, well, 20 years ago, he started playing with a bright pink ball. And his thoughts about it. And not only would he hit it, now, he was exceptionally good. And it was very rare for him to hit an errant shot in the woods or the water. But if he did, he'd go over to the woods and he'd look around and he'd go, "Where's Pinky?" He called his ball Pinky. And he was astounded if he couldn't find it. Also, unlike Dave, we would all hit bad shots very quickly. And when we did, he would look at us with amazement, like it had never happened before. It would never happen again. And say, "God, that was an out-of-body experience." He meant it in a way, although obviously it wasn't true. The final story is when Robert took up golf recently, they, I don't know if there was a phone conversation or direct, but he says, "Robert's great. He's playing left." And it was like an affront to the golf gods. He was shocked and dismayed by this. So finally I got to play with Robert and Dave. And Robert was good, his swing looked good. So I called Dave to the side and said, "Robert's swing looks good. He's way better than his maternal grandfather already." And, he's looking good. And Dave, in his characteristic way, he looked at me and says, "You really think so? You really think so?" Dave, that's the way he was. What a great guy, and we're going to miss him.
Just quick, I first met Dave. He lived on my street, or I lived on his street. I don't know who was here first, but it's been a long time. We first coached basketball together, and we were trying to teach 10, 12-year-olds. I don't know how old they were, Robert and Alex. And I don't know, Kane, if you were in that group, but it was interesting to watch Dave try to teach kids, because that same philosophy is what he tried to teach the three of us about first. And as back then as it is today, I think he really enjoyed more than the golf, he enjoyed the camaraderie. I think it was 4 hours of just hanging. I think that was, and we would talk about anything. And it's obviously, I didn't try to talk basketball because I'd always lose that conversation, because you always knew more about it than I did. But he was so well versed about everything. But the most important thing I'll remember about Dave is to these guys' comments, he was always supportive. You know, no matter how bad a shot, how I was going to say something dirtier than that, but because he would call that shot bad. But it was he was very supportive, and he said next time it'll be better. And as we said at the end of the day, we didn't pay for big money. We always lost $3 to $5, but $3 to $5 over 10 years pays for a tiki hut in the back. So turn it over.
Well, I think we're about done, but Robert, in your beautiful speech, when you said that your mother couldn't understand why you guys would go watch 10 young men that you didn't know and had no idea about and for 10 hours play basketball, no one else could understand. We're going to miss you.
Yeah.
Okay, if Richard Levine could come up, he's gonna say a blessing for us.
Carol asked me to recite the priestly blessing from Numbers. Yeraka Illinois, Yeraka. Yeraka Illinois, Tony Laka, Yeraka. It said, Illinois, Mithalaka, and Coastal. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and He make His face to shine over you. May He lift up His countenance upon you, and grant His most favorite blessing, peace.
Thank y'all. We're going to, Robert is gonna take Dr. Lombardo over to graveside. If y'all would like to follow over, everybody is going to take a scoop of dirt if you'd like and put on the grave. Then we're gonna come back and have a toast for him here in the reception hall. Thank y'all all for coming.
Hey, good job. Very interesting one.
Good, that's great. That's awesome.